God damn.
Hello and welcome back to my training vlog. This is my third time trying to record this video entirely, mostly because I have stumbled and stuttered, and that sort of shows what happens when you don't do this for a year and more. But my name is Miguel. I'm a weightlifter from Calgary, Alberta. I've been doing this thing for like 2.5 years now, and I brought it back because a great deal of time has been randomly given to me before I start my career. I'm 24. I just graduated university. So while most people would be, getting into the career part or whatever it is, I get this like huge chunk of time to discover myself before that has to happen. So what better thing to do than do the same thing I've been doing for the last 2 years, which is putting myself as completely into training as I can. So when I stopped doing the vlog, I was a lot, greener in the weightlifting, and now I think that I have a little bit more to share in terms of like my approach to training and just kind of how I see myself within my own practice. Because a lot of content that exists about weightlifting and I guess like strength stuff in general is about like doing the thing. But what I've come to realize is that the best aspect of your training that you should cultivate is your thoughts and your mental processes around training, which sounds like super analytical, but I don't register it that way, mostly because training in and of itself, especially weightlifting, is a very I don't know, what would you say? Like, your brain is doing a lot of work as your body is doing a lot of work. So you're very mentally aware during the entire act of doing the snatch and the clean and jerk. And when I was first introduced to the sport, I had that in the back of my mind as a possibility within the sport that you're going to be thinking, doing these things more than like a bicep curl or like a squat or a deadlift. And the last time I was doing these vlogs, it was a lot of me recounting like what I was trying to accomplish and trying to assure myself of a thought process. And I think I've matured a bit since then for life reasons and weightlifting reasons. And because of that, I think that I have a little bit more to share in terms of how to think about weightlifting. And I'm not a qualified coach. I don't have anything that would make me even remotely useful as a weightlifting resource, other than I do the thing, and this is what I think about the thing. So I don't think anyone should take anything more or less than that. But I don't know. This is the cool part about weightlifting, and I guess that's something that I can do with this initial like return to the vlog style, is talk about what I love so much about the sport. And I think the biggest thing that I love, and something that I've brought up in conversation a lot of times now, is that when you watch a weightlifter pick up a bar, you can immediately tell how many reps they've done with the bar. And I don't mean like a quantifiable number, but you can tell someone has done the thing a long time just by how they approach the bar, how they put it in their hands, and what they how they set themselves to do the movements itself. And that aspect of mastery is such a unique and beautiful thing to constantly strive for and approach, not only in lifting but in life. And I think that weightlifting is one of the greatest analogs for that, for your life. So that's kind of what I want to demonstrate in this vlog series, is how weightlifting gets so tightly knit into people's lives and into their brains and how they think. And maybe there's not a outlined thesis as to what I think about that or whatever, but I don't know. Hopefully, by listening to me talk about training, that it illuminates something about how I see the process. Because I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. The sport is beautiful, and I think it captures the lives of thousands and thousands of people for decades. So I'm just another cog in that giant machine. But going back to like what is actually going to be in the vlogs, this footage consists of working sets before top sets, so a lot of it is supposed to be like lower relative load. And the higher end stuff, if you want to go on my TikTok and my Instagram, it's all out there. And that's usually what I make like little montages out of. But this stuff is going to be more like the nitty gritty, more of the grunt work to actually improve at the weightlifting. Like you're seeing me do a drop snatch on toes, which is probably my least comfortable variation of the snatch. So what I aim to accomplish by sharing this footage is to, one, give myself another opportunity to like review what I'm doing at this stage of my lifting career, and also maybe share some thoughts about why I want to do certain things, why things are being attempted, and whatnot. But here, I'm doing a primer. I know I didn't talk about the first half of this video, but I want to make this more substantive to weightlifting. It's just a lot of preamble to kind of get through before I can start making this a routine thing. It might be just how my brain thinks about things, but right here you're seeing a primer before we get into clean clusters. That's the current stage of our training. So we're at the last week of basically a speed block, but within that we're practicing clusters to practice sort of building up to and then down from percents at a high relative load. So I think my coach will correct me on this for sure, but I think the purpose of this is to expose you to a higher relative percentage over time in a way that it doesn't super fatigue you, and you can get a couple shots at 90% and up. But what you saw me doing there is experimenting with a new start. What I've found lately is that my legs are very uninvolved through the first half of the clean, and that's really easy to do because you don't have to think too much when you clean. At least for me, it's something that, at least between the snatch and clean and jerk, came the most naturally. But what you're seeing me do here is start at the bottom and sort of like feel where my knees are supposed to end up. And through that, like getting my chest upright, setting my back in a way that, my sternum is facing upward. Not in like a intentional way, but more in just I want to acquire a shape. And I think that is how I've been framing a lot of my technical development lately, is through shapes, which sounds really funny. And there's no actual science to back up why I'm thinking about it this way. But when you watch, like the best technical models for snatching and clean and jerking, it's like a couple really strong principles remain true, like staying over the bar and having your legs ready to be engaged so you can move the bar vertically. So that's a huge like physical principle of what we're trying to do. But with me experimenting with this new start, you can see this here with how I'm snatching, and in the earlier videos too. I'm trying to get my legs more primed so that when I go to actually start moving the weight, my legs and my torso and my hips are moving at the same rate, so I'm not like overshooting with one or underutilizing another. Obviously, it's not a perfect thing, but that's why I think of shapes right now is as you stand up with a bar, you sort of maintain this almost triangle shape between like your hip and the bar itself and your arms. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if the science is there for that, but for me it works really well in like maintaining the posture and the shape that you need to receive the snatch and receive a clean, which is good. It's been really good, and Josh has given me a lot of positive feedback about how like the lifts have been going. The only detriment though is that my body is sore in different ways. Which is funny because I've been doing weightlifting exclusively for the last 2.5 years, and I think that people who aren't in weightlifting will hear that and wonder how you can, at this point, feel the movement differently if you're doing it so often, because it's really unlike something like a deadlift where for the most part you can sort of pick a way you want to lift early on and then maintain that through the course of multiple years. But at least in my case, with learning weightlifting older, there's a huge base of like knowledge that I had to overwrite through other sports And because of that, I have to be able to teach myself good habits by reframing things in a different way. And that's sort of why I'm constantly experimenting with how I'm starting, how I'm, what I'm pushing at certain points in the lift. And at this point in the video, you're watching our last training day. So we train 5 days a week. And at this one, we're doing heavier loads, almost like a max out. But for me, I am gassed, and that is why things look a little wonky. Shout out to Isaac for keeping me sane throughout some of these training sessions. But that's me just clarking like a 110 because it did not feel very nice. I know I didn't talk at all about the lifting, but we're basically almost done here. We got some push press. At this point, I'm really jacked up. Have not gotten treatment for the last like month and a half. That is happening again today. So, thankfully, I will probably be less tight in the next few hours. Shout out to Josh Street for that. But this is the last few clips. This is me trying to figure out why my body's so jacked up. And as you can see, 100 kilo squats are making me feel upset. So I hope I covered something at least remotely interesting over the last like 12 or so minutes. Essentially, I have a bunch of time off to find myself as a person, as a professional, and also as a way better weightlifter. Hopefully, I can actually become really good in this time frame because that would be sick. And I want to be able to create this and reflect on it in the future because I'm turning 25 this year, and that's kind of scary. But I think that this is a good way for me to at least reflect on week by week like what I'm doing with this time, and hopefully that teaches me something. No guarantees, but yeah, 70 kilo squats. I'm really jacked up, and that's really obvious. But thank you for sticking around for this first run through, and hopefully I get better at this again as time goes on. Thank you. Goodbye.